The Nerd Initiative presents the Comic Press Podcast.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Comic Press Podcast. My name is Jeremy. I am your host, as always. Today, I've got a really special guest for you guys. I've got comic book artist on the Schlub from Image Comics. Welcome, Tyrell Cannon. What is going on, man?
Hello. Glad to be here.
So, if you guys haven't checked this book out, we are going to get into it. It was a breath of fresh air, as I said in my review on it, for comic books lately, because I don't feel like there's enough comedy going on in comic books. I feel like everything is either like mega superpowered heroes, or it's like, you know, like the most serious toned murder death story you can find, you know?
We agree. I mean, and I wouldn't even say, I think what's funny is that with a lot of comics, it seems like there's this, you have to be one thing. But when you go to the movies, most movies that are at all popular that people like are going to have some comedy, and they're going to have some action, and they're going to have some scary stuff and some stakes for the characters. And so we try to have all that. I liken it more to like an 80s or 90s like cop buddy movie or something, like a Lethal Weapon, where there's
That's
great
exactly
action
the vibe
and
I
there's
was
fun
getting.
stuff, but then there's like jokes and silly characters. It's been really refreshing for me to work on too, because the tone has lots of space in it to do different types of things. And so as an artist, it's really fun to engage with.
Oh yeah, because I mean, I'm sure most artists, I'm sure, love doing, like, you know, the grotesque horror stuff, or like the really, really crazy magic and superpowers going on. But once in a while, it's nice to do something that's just fun, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
So before we get into the book, for people who don't know you, I'm sure this is a question you get in every podcast you do, but we like to get everybody's nerd origin story here on the Comic Press, and kind of dive into because a lot of people I've interviewed, it wasn't even comic books that got them started. It was either like TV shows or anime, or so. What was it for you that got you started down that road?
Probably if I go way back, it's probably cartoons and stuff, and things like the Sunday comic strips. So I grew up watching Ninja Turtles and Thundercats and all that kind of stuff, and reading Calvin and Hobbes and Garfield and all those things. And from a very early age, before I can remember even shows I would watch, I remember drawing. I was always a kid who liked to draw, and I carried around a little notebook or a sketchbook all the time. It's always sort of been my security blanket. And at some point, my dad, who read comics when he was younger, bought us some comics for me and I have a couple brothers, and he bought some comics for us. And once I saw those, I was like, what's this? This is the thing. And then I started just buying comics and never really fell. I mean, I've come in waves as far as how much I read comics and how many comics I buy, but I always come back to comics. And I've, ever since the first comic I ever got, I thought, I want to do that. My parents immediately bought me How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, and I started making little comics in my elementary school classes for extra credit or things to do with friends. And so, along with that, there's a big love of movies that I also got from my dad. He was the one who got us hooked on, horror movies and sci-fi movies and things of that sort. And so I think simultaneously with my interest in comics, my interest in films grew. And to this day, those are two of the biggest things in my life, is film and film and comics. So maybe not that atypical of an origin story, but I would say, natural proclivity towards drawing, and then my dad sort of introducing me to movies and comics.
No, that's awesome. Well, so what were like some of the first comics that like really drew you in and was like, this is it. This is like the thing that I want to do?
Yeah, the first ones I got were a Christmas present, and this is sort of a difference between the way my dad and his generation handled comics and the way we do. He just kind of rolled them up. He rolled up a couple comics and put them in some wrapping paper, and it was an issue of GI Joe, and it was an issue of the Hulk where he fights Man Thing, and I don't even remember what issue numbers those were. And I immediately was like, oh, cool, there's G.I. Joe comics, because I remember the G.I. Joe toys and the G.I. Joe show.
Mhm.
And then same thing with the Hulk. I had watched the Lou Ferrigno Hulk show with my family, and then I was like, oh, cool, like this is the Hulk. And so then my dad said, oh, well, if you guys, we liked the comics we got as presents. And so he said, well, let's go to the comic book store and you can pick some stuff out. And the first two comics I bought were X-Men #5 and X-Force #9. So Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld. And I think that that's what hooked me. And I think that to this day, I appreciate all different kinds of comics and stuff, but that era and the X characters especially, and the work of Jim Lee especially, it was everything to me. I was like all in on Jim Lee. And then when Image started, I was all in on Image. I wanted every Image comic. I liked all of them. I liked all the artists that were on them, and that sort of was a big formative moment for me as far as my comics. Was probably those two specific books, and I still have them, and I look at them all the time. And
You still have the same two issues, like the same two
yeah,
books?
it's the exact ones I bought. I
Oh,
actually have two
wow.
copies of X-Men #5 because my dad would read our comics, and one day he just like set his glass on my X-Men #5, and it got a water like loop on it. And so I traded a friend for a second copy, I think in elementary school or junior high. And I still have that original X-Force as well. I have all of my original comics, really. I mean, unless I traded them, I've kept all of them. So that's probably
rare,
the nerdiest
man.
thing about me, is I have like a real comic book collection. I got like 6 long boxes back there, and then this is all graphic novels up here, and then
Oh, I know.
original art and
My
stuff
shelf
like
is
that.
covered in graphic novels, it should
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
No, that's awesome, man. So let's get into the Schlub. Like I said, this was such a breath of fresh air for me, for the just in comic books, period. Because like I said, a lot of stuff that lately is great, but it's so serious toned and some of it's so dark that you need some levity once in a while.
Yeah, I agree. I think that when you do have those different tones, you're able to say more things and get more out of people. Like, I'm a big horror movie guy, and I was actually just talking to another buddy about horror movies, and one of the movies we brought up was Nope. And we also talked about Get Out, and we just talked about how those are good modern examples of how a lot of horror throughout history has had humor in it as sort of this bit of respite, um, and also acknowledges the funniness of even horrible situations. And I think we definitely have that in our book. I mean, there's true character moments and true pathos and true stakes, but there's a lot of dumb stuff too. Just like real life, there's all kinds of dumb stuff that happens to you, and there's all kinds of people that you're just like, that guy's a dummy. And Roger's one of those people that we all know that just can't do the right thing, and it's sad, but it's also funny, and it's also annoying, and so we try to make it have all those things, in there.
Well, and since the first issue is out on shelves now, I want to give everybody a real quick spoiler warning in case you guys don't want it spoiled. Go to the shop, pick it up, then come back and watch this after it's aired live. But dude, like you said, Roger just cannot do anything right. Like, you start to feel sorry for him at first, but then it's real quick. It's like, but he's kind of a asshole too. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a shifty dentist. I think Ryan Stegman has a big bone to pick with the dentists.
I was
I
gonna
don't have quite
ask,
as
does he
much
have
as him,
something
but
against dentists?
yeah, he hates dentists. And so yeah, and that's the thing, is that you get his sort of ways that he is, right. He's taking advantage of this person, and he's sort of jealous, and he's irresponsible. But then you also get to see, especially as the series goes on, other people in his life's reactions to him and their history with him, which shows that there's lots to him. He's not just a cartoon character, but we show him that way at first, so that you kind of get this hook of like, okay, this is a goofy guy, I want to stick with him. Like, when I designed the character based on their what they had done in the character description, I thought, well, he can't just be like sad and depressing. He has to have something
Right.
about him that's a little funny. And Ryan was very specific. He wanted those big veneers, the big teeth on him, and all of his family and everything. And so that sort of added to it. And I kind of just kept making him shorter and rounder, and because within the first issue, as you know, I mean, the body swap happens right away. And so then it's funny to me to think of a superhero being in this body and dealing with the things that this normal person who's kind of an idiot, what their life is like. Like they're both stuck dealing with each other's problems. And I find that to be, maybe that's the core of a lot of body swap stuff. But for us, you throw in the superhero element, and you throw in the element that it's not just like two sisters or two guys that know each other switching bodies. It's like people on
Right.
completely opposite ends of the spectrum of this world that we've created.
Yeah, you've got, Roger, who is like your average shady dentist, big, huge veneers. Like, he's sitting there just kind of signing forms for his patient while she's all, anesthesiaed up. And then everything changes in an instant for him because these two come crashing through his wall.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a fun one. I that page was the double page spread there. We wanted to sort of encapsulate the bigness of the action and the characters, but also the ridiculousness of the situation. The superhero battle happening in the midst of this dentist office with this poor woman with all these things stuck in her, and this dentist who's kind of an idiot. He's mad they're destroying his office,
He's still
and he's
getting her to
still trying
sign
to get her to
stuff.
take
Like,
pictures on there. Yeah.
no, I love it. And you've got these two like obviously super powered entities fighting each other. I don't know what just happened there. Sorry, my microphone muted itself for some reason. That was very
That's
strange.
okay.
Anyway, so you've got these two guys fighting over this thing, and of course, who does it land right in front of but Roger?
And he's dumb enough to pick it up.
And not only is he dumb enough to pick it up, but he's dumb. Like you can see the utter shock and terror on these two's face. Like they're like, if they stopped their fight and freaking out this much, this is not going to end well.
Right.
And the
Right.
first thing he does is, what does this button do? So
Yeah,
how did they like come at you with this idea for this story? Like, did they have it as just like a little nugget of an idea at first, or was it like a completely like, hey, we've got this thing with this like idiot dentist. He swaps bodies with this superhero. Like, let's go to town with it.
Yeah. So the general concept was all Stegman had pitched this to Image. I don't know, 4 years ago, 4 years ago, and Image had said, yeah, let's do it. And he was going to write and draw it. And it was called The Unbearable Roger Dalton. And he ended up, right after Image said yes, some short time after that, Marvel was like, hey, so, do you want to work on something? You keep working with us. And he's like, no, I'm going to do my thing. And then like, well, do you want to do this thing with Donnie? And he's like, I don't know. And then Donnie got on the phone with him. And then, of course, they did Venom and King in Black and all that. And the rest was history. And I think that after all that, Ryan sort of realized, okay, I'm always going to be busy and I still want to do this book and maybe I should collaborate. And so he got in touch with Kenny and me, and we're all just, I guess, friends. We're part of a comic making group that talks to each other pretty much every day. And so he was familiar with my work from the group, and he liked what I was doing and said, hey, do you want to do my book for me? Do you want to draw my book for me? And Kenny's going to write it with me. And I said, yeah. And then he's like, don't you want to know what it's about? And I said, yeah, sure.
Just saying yes to before you even know what it is.
Part of it was that I knew those two guys, and
Mhm.
and I had worked with Kenny, and I really liked both of them a lot, and I trusted them, and I had a lot of respect for what they both do. And I was like, well, whatever they want to do, it'll be fun because we know each other, and they're good creators. And then he told me the pitch, and I said, that sounds great, and that sounds perfect for sort of where I'm at artistically right now. It felt like I was in a place, I just finished, my last two projects had been Beef Bros and my sci-fi comic Eris, which both have a lot of action and a lot of big worlds and a lot of humor. Well, Eris doesn't really have much humor, but Beef Bros has a lot of humor. So it felt like a great mix of all the things I was interested in. And then a challenge for me as well to figure out, how do I draw these two different types of characters and not just have everyone have muscles and not just have everything be gonzo all the time, but have, big moments and small moments and character moments. And it all sounded really fun. And so I said, let's do it. Let's go ahead. And then shortly after that, him and Kenny started really working out the story. And so what Ryan had before was sort of a template for the whole first arc.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but then I think when Kenny got involved, they really started shifting it. And I know a lot changed. I never actually saw his original concept of it. And so it was mostly, I think, what him and Kenny came up with is what I've been working from. And then I've been able to add some things here and there. Just, I designed all the characters, and I designed anything you see is me, so because Ryan hadn't designed the characters or anything when he had started it. So that's how it all came about, and it's been a blast, and been working on it almost a year now, and I'm almost done with issue 6 right now. So.
And like Ellie said, like that has to be one hell of a group chat. Like for a comic book fan, that's like, oh man, I'd love to be in that inner circle,
It's cool. It's very cool. I always feel like, am I supposed to talk about it as a secret? But Ryan talks about it all the time. I mean, it's a great group. It's I got involved. I quit my day job to do comics full time almost like 3.5, 4 years ago. And I was already really close friends with Danny Warren Johnson. We had met a long time ago at a convention and lived in the same neighborhood and became, we're just buddies. And he said, hey, you should get on this chat that I'm on. And it had some other people I knew socially, like Brian Level. And so I was like, oh yeah, sure, I'll jump on. And so as time went on, I started jumping on more and getting close with them. But it's a great chat. It's, we got Stegman and Brian Level and Kenny Porter and Jay Lyston, David Costa, Jason Howard, Sanford Green. I mean, I'm constantly learning from these guys. They're all so awesome, and just we all put our work in and critique it, and they've been so helpful and supportive. It's been a really fun thing to be a part of.
So did they ever say like no to any ideas that you came up with for this book so far? Like, because with comedy stuff, it's easy to go like overboard, I feel like.
Sure.
But you didn't. I feel like it's just the right amount of overboard with this story, the way it is.
Yeah. Honestly, they sometimes send me scripts. I'll be like, are you guys serious? Are you just messing with me? Like, do you really think that I can pull this off? Because I can't, even just issue 2, there's a scene in issue 2. When I read the script, I was just like, they can't be serious. Like, they can't be serious. There's no way I'm going to be able to pull this off. And it's not really even a funny moment. It's just like holy shit, that's crazy looking.
Right.
And, every script, every issue has stuff like that I'm just like, there's no way. Like, there's no way. And so if anything, like, I don't think that I've added anything that's, that didn't germinate with their own idea. We'll see though. There's some things I'm doing right now that they haven't seen yet that I'm hoping that they go for. Sometimes it's little things, like I'll say, for example, with Sirius's costume, when I was designing it, I put these little sort of ports on different parts of him, and they sort of vent. And I was like, hey, Kenny, like, you can see it on this page here, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Can we have this like venting action, like his powers maybe vent out after he uses them, or we see it glow when he's doing it? And I thought it'd be a cool visual element, and Kenny sort of helped. We kind of came up with some character lore, list a little bit about that. And then in issue 2, there's some like side characters that they were just like, oh, there's these guys. And I was like, well, can I, maybe draw them out a little bit more and make them a little more. And now those are like full-fledged characters by the 6th issue. So it's been a really fun collaborative process. And if anything, I feel like I'm always trying to play catch up with their big ideas. Stegman and Porter's ideas are just so big and fun. I mean, the first issue is like so small compared to where everything goes.
And you could tell it's about to go insane by the end of it, because it does. It starts kind of slow at the very first couple pages. He's talking to his ex-wife, and then all of a sudden, boom, as soon as they bust through his wall, it's all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, we definitely deliver on the action. Even the slowest of the issues is jam-packed with action. I mean, that's what I want to do, is draw action right now. Like, that's the thing I want to do. And so Stegman and them are like giving me tons of room to do lots of big fights and lots of cool superhero stuff. And then when we do have the character moments, in a lot of ways, that's the challenging part for me, because that's the stuff that I feel like I'm still growing into as an artist, and finding ways to take all the different dynamics between different characters and the conversations and make them interesting to look at. So, because sometimes the other challenging thing when I get a script is like, okay, these two are having an emotional moment together. And as an artist, you're like, well, how do I, like, I really want to sell that. I really want people to feel that when they look at the image. So yeah.
Is there anything that like you get sent as an artist that you have said like no to? Like I either don't feel comfortable doing that, or I don't like that's not my cup of tea, or I just don't want to draw it at all.
Not on this book. That kind of thing definitely maybe happened more earlier when I first quit my job. I kind of had to say yes to everything, and so there was a lot more times where I would be on projects that I didn't have as much personal interest in. And the more you do it and the more you do things that you want to do, you tend to just get more of the things you want to do because people start to associate you with that. Like, so I tried to draw a lot of action stuff. Like that's why I did my book Eris. I was like, I'm going to show people what I can do. And then people tend to hire you to do that thing when they see that you can do that. I mean, early on there was a few different things that were not super fun, but I didn't necessarily say no. I definitely had some heated debates with a couple of people about what I thought was best for the visual of the book. And at the end of the day, the person paying me won those arguments. But I think that nowadays, like that's the other nice thing about working with Kenny and Ryan is that not only do I know them, but Ryan's an artist, so he understands what it's like to get a script and then have to work from it. And Kenny is one of those writers that is very gracious about, hey, if you don't think it works visually, then like tell me and we'll adjust and we can kind of come to an agreement on it. So we haven't had very many big arguments between us, at least not about the Schlub. We argue about other things, but
right. But no, like how is that for you as like a guy who prefers to do a lot of big action scenes when you have to slow down for these kind of character moments like this?
It's good. I mean, it's good because number one, I understand that if you want to have the big action, you have to have breathing room between it. That's the only way that those moments will sell. And then the other thing is that I've done a lot of other kinds of comics in the past, and I hope to do lots of different types of comics in the future. And so I want to get better at everything. And so if I can, if I can get better, like at those scenes, via this book, then that's good. So it's a challenge sometimes, just because I feel like I need to grow in that area. But it's not that it's, I don't like hate it or anything. It's just more like those pages take me a little bit longer to figure out, honestly. And I'm a little less confident with them until I can get them out in the world and see how people react to them. But so far, I think, all that being said, I think that a lot of the moments are selling really well in the book, and a lot of people seem to be getting it. Like when I've heard the reactions, the hard part is like I've been working on this for a year and no one's seen it. So now that it's out in the world, is actually kind of fun to see what people are thinking. Like, did this part work? Did it not work? And what's been amazing to me is that hearing the reactions is very encouraging, because I think the way people are picking up on things and what they're picking up on, they're going to love where we're going. People are saying the right things about what they like or what they're interpreting as possibilities for the world that we're building.
Right, because like near the end of the book, like the whole time that they're fighting, Sirius is trying to convince Roger to stop, slow down. You don't know what you're doing. You cannot control what you're now in possession of. Like you don't know, you're gonna hurt somebody.
Right.
By the end of it, he's finally seems like he's gotten through to him. He's like, okay, I got you. I'm your man. And then turn around and immediately, when he's out of eyesight, burns down his brother's billboard.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a great
that
moment.
had to have been so much fun to draw out.
Well, that's the hook right there, right? And I think the reason this sells so well is panels 2 and 3 on the previous page, where they're far away from each other, and like Sirius is off to do his thing, and he's like, "No, I'm serious, like for real." And Roger's like, "Yeah, totally,"
It'll
like
be
not
fine.
listening at all. You realize he's not listening at all. He doesn't, whatever. And then the last page, I really wanted it to just sing as like a big sort of, okay, like we like to end the issues, especially this first issue. You got to end it with something that's like, okay, where are we going to go? What's going to happen? The hardest part of that last page was actually, I wanted it to be clear that it was the billboard that was getting burned down from earlier in the issue. And so I tried to put one of the faces from earlier in there.
I was just about to say, like, you could see his dad's face in the flames still right there.
And so I tried to put it in there, but I still wanted the whole thing to look like it was melting. And so I had to call out to Mike, our colorist, like, hey, make sure that part still sort of reads, and I tried to place it next to his hand. So it was like, okay, you can see that it's there. And I think it worked out pretty well. Mike is, a wizard. So he crushed it as usual.
No, I think it worked out great because yeah, his color work in here, man, it pops.
He's very good. He's very good. When we started working on it, I got a couple issues under my belt, and then Ryan was like, "Well, who do you want to color this?" And I said, "If we can get Mike Spicer, like he is the guy right now, in my opinion. He's really one of the best people out there, and he's doing stuff that's outside of the kind of norm for superhero books, and that he uses a lot of flat colors, a lot of pops between panels, and stuff that feels throwback but also really fresh. And his work allows the line work to really sing. Whereas I think a lot of modern colorists, and it's nothing good or bad, just something I see, there's a lot of rendering and there's a lot of over coloring, for what I like. And Mike was a perfect fit, and he said yes, and we got him. And I've never been more pleased. He's easy to work with, and he's smart, and he enhances all the storytelling, and it's been great, really great.
No, because I've seen some colorists where it's like it almost looks like they try to go over all the line work with their colors so that like it almost
Yeah,
seems like they drew and colored it. I don't
yeah,
know if that's done
there's like
intentionally or
painting.
they're just kind of subconsciously going about their thing or
I don't know. I think that there's a byproduct of a lot of modern color that a lot of modern line artists are kind of, especially at the big two, for better or worse, maybe forced to be fast and forced to do a more of a clean line style, where you're not doing a lot of shading and hatching, because it saves time. And then the
Mhm.
colorists have kind of picked up the slack and really added some depth to that. And if you pair up two people that work together, that's a great look, and it can really look nice. But that's not really the way I work with my line work. And so I was sort of, wanting somebody that was a little bit different for this. And I did want it to feel, um, me. And I think Ryan and Kenny probably on board with this too. I wanted it to call back to stuff that I associate with superhero books, and that is that the figures and the situations and the paneling all feels very energetic and very, exaggerated in a way that isn't, always based on photo reference and stuff. I try not to
Mhm.
use tons of photo reference, especially for the characters. I think that I want them to feel like gods, like these bigger than life things. And then I wanted the colors to sort of mirror that. And the beauty of Mike is that he can do that, where the action scenes have these poppy pinks and yellows and blues, but then we'll go have a somber moment, and he can kind of turn the volume down a little bit. And
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 the background's very
yeah, it's a
neutral
really,
and
yeah, it's a great mix. So I thought he was a perfect fit, and then when we got him on the book, he was a perfect fit. So I was vindicated. They didn't argue with me. I mean, they both like him too. I mean, we're all friends with Dan, and Dan works with Mike all the time. And so the other part of it that I was like, Dan is like, is he going to be on time? Is he going to do the work? Is he easy to work with? And Dan's like, oh yeah, total professional. And like, that's another huge selling point when you're working with somebody, because so many times in comics you don't get to interview people. You just kind of
mhm.
hire people, or you get stuck with them, and you don't know if they're going to be cool or like a total piece of garbage, And luckily, everyone I'm working with, especially on this book, is not. They're just total professionals, with great ideas and great contributions to the book. Like, the book is definitely a team effort for sure.
Well, and you can tell when it's one person driving the entire thing. You know what I'm saying? Like you can tell when it's a creative team and when it's an actual creative team.
Right, right. Yeah, it feels like we found a lot of synergy with each other, and yeah, I mean, other than just being cool that I have my first time working at it on an image book, it's just been professionally just a really fun project, and one that I actually like. Like, it's one thing to do a job because the money's good, or because it puts you someplace in your career that you want to be, but to also have it be, um, just fun to work with the people I'm working with has been the best part of it.
Well, and I feel like with a comedy book, you kind of have to be having fun creating it, or it's just not going to come off right.
You probably have a good point there. You want to make each other laugh. I think that helps too when you're collaborating
Right.
with people. And so when they have a funny idea, I try to sell it with the visuals, and then they come back and adjust the script to sell it even more. And there's tons of times throughout the, I'll be reading a script or I'll see the letters put into place, and I just laugh. It makes me laugh, or it makes me be like, holy shit, that's crazy.
Well, and speaking of the lettering, like the lettering matches the entire tone of the book, I feel like, because it's big, it's bold, it's goofy looking, it's none of the fonts are the same through the entire book. It's all different. I love it.
John's very good. John came to us with Stegman because he works on Vanish and stuff with Stegman and does all of our design for us. And I love what he's done with the design of the book, the layouts and everything. That kind of stuff is easy to overlook, but if you see a book that's laid out poorly and has the credits done poorly and the back cover done poorly, it brings the whole book down, in my opinion. But his work has really just made the book feel more top shelf. Every time I see an issue, and he's great at placing the word balloons, especially. That's something that I've always sort of, I'm used to lettering all my own stuff, and coloring all my own stuff. So I'm maybe hypercritical of those two things. And, I need to apologize to Mike and John, I think, because sometimes I'm kind of nitpicky, but it's just because I always want it to be perfect. But with the word balloon placements, John is just the best. He's really good at it. And the challenging thing is that the way we work is sort of Marvel style. So they give me a page by page outline, and then I do kind of the panels and stuff as I want to. And so I don't have the dialogue with like exactly when I'm working on it. So I don't always know how many balloons will be in each spot. So, and I tend to be, people might notice if they've read the book, I tend to try to cover every surface with something. I like lots of detail. That's just what I enjoy about comics. And so I think he's always got a task cut out for him once he gets the script to how is he going to place these balloons. And he does a great job of it every time. It's really great working with him. He's a total professional. He keeps us on track. He's also in charge of our schedule and getting all of our files to image on time. And we could not do it without John. He's great.
Well, and I feel like in the comic book industry and community, there's a lot of us that have like ADHD.
Yeah.
We might forget to send a file or, so I feel like we all need a person like that on every team that we're working with.
It's really great. I mean, if I had to do it myself, I would, but I'm really glad I don't have to, because then I can just focus on drawing the cool stuff.
No, that's great. So is there any other genres of comics that like you are interested in working on that you haven't gotten a chance to yet?
I guess all of them. I did sort of a true crime-ish, semi, biographical book. I've done a couple auto-bio things. I think I'd like to do a little more of that. I've done a lot of science fiction. I haven't really done a straight up horror comic. I would really like to do a horror comic, being a horror fan. I think it's really hard to pull it off in comics to do something that's genuinely scary. So I think that'd be a fun challenge. And I would like to do something maybe with, a lot of my past work too is I guess experimental is a good word for it. And so I'd like to do more of that. But it might be interesting too to do something that's just more of a drama. I don't know. Those are far away goals. Like right now, I'm definitely pulling the superhero action thread. I think it'd be fun to do some real world stuff that has action too, like a cop type thing or drama, or not necessarily about cops, but something that is a real world sort of action drama might be fun. But honestly, everything I'd like to work for a long time and switch it up a lot. And right now I feel like superheroes are interesting to me, and they always will be. I grew up on superheroes. So yeah, I don't know.
Well, is there anything else you want to plug? I don't want to take up too much of your day. I know it is a random Wednesday in the middle of the week. So
yeah, it's just drawing day. I'm just drawing, but well, issue 2, final order cutoff is coming up. Really proud of what we did in issue 2. I think that it really expands. I think I just counted earlier. I think we introduce 9 characters in the second issue.
Oh, wow.
Some super powered and some not. And that's kind of part of the course. Like every issue has new people, new situations, new places, new threats, new twists in the story. I know this sounds so pitchy, but like, as the artist, I'm reading the scripts and this is how I feel when I get them. I'm like, oh, cool. No way. Oh, awesome. Cause I have a general idea where the story's going, but like, there's so many twists and turns that I don't know until I get the script. And so issue 2 really opens up the world a lot more. It's got some of my favorite moments that I've drawn in it. Has my favorite cover of the whole series, I think, is the cover for issue 2. So definitely pick that up. Other than that, I'm always doing, I do live streams on Tuesday nights, or at least I try to most Tuesdays, and I'll draw, live draw something, take questions from people. Sometimes I'll show off Schlub art, or, I did a walkthrough of issue 1 on my YouTube channel, like of all the original art, and kind of talk about how I made everything. And I plan to do that for every issue as it comes out. So if you hit up my YouTube for that, you can follow me on all the other social medias as T Cannon Comics. I also have a Patreon. Those people get all of my old work for free, and they get early access to Schlub stuff, and that's a great place to be. And then we also have a community over on the KLC Press. So if you're into Stegman's other work, like Vanish, or if you want to get in on Kill Your Darlings, the other book coming out from KLC, which is really good. If you join up there, we do a bunch of live chats there. We did a little kind of director's commentary type thing. We love to engage with that community as well. So yeah, that's the things I would plug, and just get, if you like the Schlub, keep buying it. Tell your friends about it. I'd love to see our audience grow instead of shrink. I think that it's the kind of book that people that love comics will really get, because it has everything to do with superheroes and what we love about them. But I also think it's the kind of comic that somebody who maybe likes Marvel movies but has never read a comic might enjoy, because to me it feels like it brings in a lot of the elements of just great films and stories. Like if you like Pineapple Express, if you like Righteous Gemstones, if you like Lethal Weapon, if you like the Marvel movies, if you like old Superman movies, you'll love this. It's got all that stuff. And especially if you love body swap movies and stuff, you'll love this book. So maybe buy 2 copies of issue 2. Give one to a buddy. Give one to a friend who's never read a comic, and check it out.
That's the greatest sales pitch you could ever ask for a comic book right there, I feel like. But no, it is. It's a lot of fun, and it's a new take on the whole body swap thing. It's not, 2 siblings or twins or whatever it is. Right. It's not a mom or daughter or dad or son, or no, it's great stuff.
Well, thank you. I'm really glad that you enjoyed it, and it's been really nice to talk about it a little bit. It's been great to get out there. Now that the issue's out, that we could talk about some of the story points. And
I was saying I could actually show some artwork.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to see where it goes next, and hear what you think about issue 2, because I think we will surprise people every issue. So,
well, maybe we'll have to have you back on a little bit later in the run, and kind of do a where we are now type of episode.
That sounds great. That'd be a lot of fun.
Cool. Well, guys, before we sign off, I do want to remind everybody that the next episode of our show Fandoms here on the Nerd Initiative Network is going to be September 1st at 8 p.m. That is the new time for the show. Next episode, live episode, I should say, of Comic Press is going to be September 8th at 6 p.m. Next episode of our newest show, Turn a Page, is September 5th at 8 p.m. And our new show, Wrestling Night Live, is coming soon. Date still to be determined, coming to a Wednesday night near you. My name is Jeremy. This is Tyrell. Everybody, please, as always, be safe, be kind, and take it easy.